Good afternoon. Our next batch of pullets are just beginning to lay, and it is time for us to build them a new portable coop. So I thought today I would start that video and show you guys the portable coops that we build and show you the parts and step you through the construction of building this chicken coop that we use as a portable coop in the field. We have 3 of these already, and this will be the 4th one we built. So let's hope this goes well. I'll show you how we do it. So the coops that we build are 8 by 12. They're 12 feet long and 8 feet wide. So for each side I have 2 by 4 by 12s. 2 by 4 by 12s for each side. Those are the side runners. And 2 by 4 by 8 for the front and the rear. So those are the main parts of the frame. The other part of the frame that really pulls all this together and holds everything well are cattle panels. I really like using these. They're nice and rigid, but this will end up being our roof structure. And for a 12-foot long chicken coop, we use 3 panels. We also have a couple of pieces of the plastic, like a pal roof. We'll actually use that as a wind block or windbreaker on the back. As far as hardware, I have hardware cloth we'll use for the front door. We have 4 rolls of 20 gauge, 48 inch by 25 feet chicken wire. We have these 3/8 inch by 4 7/8 inch hooks that hold 325 pounds. We'll screw 2 of these in the front and 2 of them in the back on the lower parts so that we can pull it from either direction. We have these little hooks that we typically use for tying the tarp over the top. We have 2 simple little hinges, like small door hinges, a simple gate latch, and these, we call them hog rings. There's several names for them. They call these hump rings, pig rings, and shoat rings is another name for them. But those will come in handy when we attach the wire, the chicken wire, to the panels. As far as tools, don't really need a lot. The biggest thing is we need drills. We've got a couple drills here. Back on hardware for a second. We also have our number 10 3-inch screws. We have our number 8 inch and 5/8 screws. I've got a DeWalt saw, drill bits, and I've got all of my bits here in this thing. Sorry, they're kind of dusty from being in the barn, but the 2 we'll need most are this one, this hex head for the deck bolts, and maybe the Phillips there for the hinges and things like that. Pencil to mark anything we need to mark. I'll be working mostly by myself, so I've got a couple of third hands here. These clamps, square, shears for cutting the chicken wire, and pliers for whatever comes up. So those are the basics of the tools we need to make this. The parts that I bought for the doors, what I make the door out of, are simple 1x3s. So it takes 4 of those to make, 5 of those, possibly 5, sometimes 4, sometimes 5 to make the door. So we'll get into that. The total cost for all of these parts to build this coop was about $350, and this coop will house the 40 pullets, and again they will go right out there on our field. You can see we have a couple of other ones. You might be able to see those out there. We have the 3 of those guys out there. All the chickens are inside. It is the heat of the day and very hot, so I have chosen to do this in the shade under these nice trees. So we'll get started. Alright, so we're going to start with the side runner. But on these side runners, basically I'm going to take the two 2x12s and they will end up being like this. So that will be sort of an L shape, and that's the beginning. So since they're sitting here like that, I'm just going to line them up like this. I'm going to do the two ends, and then that way I can make sure they're straight, and then we will do the middle part. Using the 3-inch screws with this. Might need a third hand to do that. Sitting out here on the uneven ground, it's a little tedious to get all these things in the right place and everything lined up, but it is what it is. Beautiful day other than being a little warm. Okay, do the other end. Alright, so when a board is warped a little bit, like this one is, you may have to use a clamp just to straighten it out. And that's exactly what we're going to do right now. And at least do a couple in the middle to get that straight. So we can take one of our third hands, these little clamps, and figure out the right way to get it on there. Basically, I'm going to set it on its side, get the clamp started, like so. I'm going to push this over so that's nice and straight and square with the edge of the board. And we'll use the clamp to hold it in place. Now it's good and straight. And come over on the side. Put a couple of screws in that to hold it, and you can see how those two are nice and straight together. So I'm not using anything except just regular white pine. I don't use the pressure treated or anything like that. Just find it really doesn't seem to add life to these chicken coops that sit out in the weather a lot. Actually, their whole life. They're outside, out in the weather. So far, the coops we have out on the field are about, I don't know, one of them's about 3 years old and the other one's about 5, maybe 6. And they have held up very well. Still have not had any wood rot or anything to have to replace on them. Alright, so that'll make our skid for the side. Take our clamp off. So there we go. There's one side down. And that just becomes the side running board. And I'll do the same thing for the other side. Alright, next we start putting on the inboard. We have our two runners made. So this one will go against both of these, just like that. So we will get that squared up so that they fit nicely. They're lined up now. Should have gotten a bigger drill maybe, but this will work. So basically I'm putting 2 screws in the bottom and then 1 screw that goes in through the end of this one and into the end of that runner. There, that squares everything up really well. I'll just repeat that on the other 3 corners. Alright, so got all 4 of those corners done. The next part is to make the cross brace that holds the front and the rear together nice and tight. So I've laid the board up there and I've marked it where I want to cut it. So now I just got to cut that so it'll fit in there. Use my square where I marked the lines. So I want it to be fairly square. It doesn't have to be perfect. After all, it is a chicken coop, so as long as it works and does its job, we are happy with it. I can't do that left-handed, can I? I have to spin this around. So now that those are cut, they should fit right inside here. A little tight. That's a good thing. Nice and tight. Alright, I like it. So that just gives stability to both ends. It makes them so that they will not come apart. I may have to trim that one out a little too tight. Maybe I put the wrong board in the wrong place, maybe. Let's try that. Oh, still just a little bit long. I need to trim that off. Just shave the edge of it so it would fit in there a little better. Still pretty tight. Good grief. Have to do it again. Wants to be tight, but that's why I have to force it. Alright, that's good. I'm going to screw those together. So I'm going to start with the end and put a couple of screws through the sideboard here. And then we'll put some across the front. So in 30 minutes or less, we have the base put together. Not difficult at all. Next we'll put the panels up to create our roof.